every single wipe in Escape from Tarkov, we see people rip up to super high levels super fast. You can see people in the 40s and 50s even just a week or two into the wipe. And while this is definitely not feasible for somebody that doesn't have 10, 12, 18 hours a day to grind Escape from Tarkov, they do this by applying some core fundamental principles that you can apply to level up fast. So let's go over them. Now, when I say fast of course is relative, right? If you only have a few hours a day to play the game, there's just no way you can get to the same level as somebody with 10, 12 hours a day to play the game. Additionally, the people that get to these ridiculously high levels have 5, 6, 7, 10,000 hours of Escape from Tarkov, min-maxing their playstyle and gaining just like every bit of knowledge about the game that there is. And then on top of that, they have all that time in a day to then grind out the game. But like we said, the point of this is to talk about like the principles and some quick tips that you can focus on to help you level up as fast as you can. If you only have a few hours a day to play or a few hours a week to play, what I want to do is just help you maximize that time and get as far as you can. Now, all that being said, I'm going to start with what I think is the most important thing that affects how fast you level up in this game. And it's definitely not sexy. You're probably not going to like the answer, but that's simply just to survive more raids. Now, of course, that sounds stupid because the whole point of the game is to survive. But something that I have found is that while of course every single person wants to survive every raid, very few people actually play with that being the most important thing in mind when they're in a raid. It's crazy how often you see people tunnel vision quests and just try and go do something over and over and over and die and die and die. Additionally, so many people either push PvP fights, get into PvP fights they shouldn't, maybe when they're outnumbered, or are unwilling to leave a PvP fight or leave something, maybe leave some loot on the table. Maybe you've killed 2 of a 3-man or 2 of a 4-man, and there's that juicy loot, there's those bodies right there, but you're hurt, you don't know where these other 2 are. Maybe you should just leave that fight. Of course, everybody wants loot and everybody wants money in the game, but if we're talking about leveling up, money doesn't really matter. Surviving your raids, getting out, getting your quest items, all that stuff is going to give you the most XP. So that is kind of like a fundamental shift. Now, of course, when you look at these guys that have 10,000 hours in the game, they're grinding levels really fast by W keying in and PvPing. It's because they know that they can do that. They're relying on all of that experience and all of that knowledge and all of that skill so that they know that they can go in and wipe a 4-man or wipe a 5-man and still survive that raid. I can't do that. Early wipe, I'm avoiding PvP, I'm leaving fights, I'm leaving loot that I know is there because I have a quest item or something and I want to get out, I want to survive, I want to level up. So you kind of have to look at your skill set, how many wipes you've been playing, and assess how you need to structure your raids so that survival is the most important thing. There's plenty of time in a wipe for PvP, there's plenty of time in a wipe for shenanigans, but surviving your raids is going to be the best thing for you for a number of reasons. First and foremost, you just get an XP bonus for surviving raids. So there's a significant more amount of XP you're just going to get every single time you survive as opposed to dying. Secondly, there are so many quests that require some sort of stupid quest item that you have to find or some sort of thing found in raid. So you can oftentimes find yourself with something on you that if you die, you're going to miss out on XP because you have to go get that thing again. So just getting out, getting your quest done is going to be a huge way to get a ton of XP. And then also, the more you survive, the less money you have to spend on gear to gear up every single time because you have to buy a new Mosin or a new something, new armor. That means you probably have more money, which means you have more money to invest in better gear, better ammo, a better armor, maybe a visor, which also increases your survivability. So survival is really important to maximizing the amount of XP you have, especially if you don't have a lot of time. I wouldn't worry too much about like your survival rate, what your exact survival percent rate is. Don't worry about that too much. If you see people in the 70, 80, 90%, once again, those are probably people with a ton of experience. If you've got 40% survival rate, you're probably right there in the average, and you can just work on trying to push that up. So it's all about playing a different way in the early wipe where survival and getting as much XP as you can is the most important thing. I promise that will pay dividends. Now, that being the most important thing, there aren't that many other ways to get XP in this game. The other biggest thing is going to be by doing quests. A lot of newer players really do overlook this in the beginning because they're trying to learn the game. It's really overwhelming. Maybe they're just hopping in with some buddies and they're trying to get some loot or get some cool kills or something like that. A lot of the early quests really don't give that much XP either. You know, 5,000, 3,000 XP, but they really do open up, and some of the mid-game quests can give you 10, 20, 30,000 XP per quest. And if you're not going for Kappa, which I probably wouldn't recommend anyway, there are so many quests in the game that if there's an annoying one or if there's a whole quest line you don't feel like doing, you probably don't have to do it. You know, you can have like 30 or 40 quests open at a time. So kind of pick the ones that you think are feasible for you, go work on them, prioritize survival while you're doing it, and you'll start getting a ton of XP. It really starts to churn up pretty quickly once you kind of do a few quests for each person. Now, right along with that, you have your dailies and your weekly tasks. So once you get to level 5, you get 3 daily tasks that rotate every 24 hours. And I believe it's once you get to level 15, you get a weekly task that obviously rotates out every week. Similar story here, and if you're level 10, 15, these tasks probably don't give a ton of XP, so they're not worth like wasting your time trying to do that. I would focus on the quest lines over those, but if you can double up, that's sick. But once you get into like the 20s, mid 20s, these actually become a pretty significant source of XP. Each of these dailies can be giving anywhere between 5 and 10,000 XP. There's 3 of those every single day. And you can also replace them for an easier one. Just be careful because it costs money and trader rep. You don't want to lose a standing with a particular trader just because you were trying to reroll a daily. But sometimes you can really link it up where you have a quest to survive a few times on Shoreline, and then you can get a daily to survive on Shoreline as well. And now you can double up and really get a ton of XP. Same with the weeklies. The weeklies are going to be bigger ones that are much harder to do. However, they can be pretty significant sources of XP, and all the dailies and weeklies have crazy pools that the rewards come from. So sometimes you can find quest items or like stims or labs cards or something like that as the rewards for those things. So that might make them worth doing because then you can complete that daily and then complete another quest because you have that item. So just be thinking about that. Those are going to be the obvious big 3 ways to get XP in Escape from Tarkov. Survive as many raids as you can, get that XP boost, do as many quests as you can, and always be checking your dailies and weeklies. There are some other little things that you can do as well. One of the biggest tips that I can give when you're in raid to maximize your XP is loot everything, touch every body that you can. If you just go up to a scav, for instance, and just hit F on the scav and then immediately back out, in the bottom right, you're going to see a certain amount of XP pop up. It can be anywhere between like 60 and like 300 XP. You don't have to search their bag, their rig, or anything. You just press F on the body and then back up. Additionally, this can actually tell you if a scav is worth looting. If you touch a scav and it gives you like 300 XP, search that scav's backpack in their pockets. They might have a flash drive or cash or a wallet or some other item that you might want on them. If it gives you 60, 70 XP, they probably just have their gun, their ammo, and maybe like a med or something in their pockets. This can really add up over time to even thousands of additional XP per raid if you play it slow and kind of touch everybody that you can. And what's great is that you can benefit from other people's kills. If you roll up on a place and you see a bunch of dead PMCs and a bunch of dead scavs, and this fight obviously moved on and there's no threats in the area, touch all the bodies, even if you don't have any more room for loot. If you're playing with a 2-man or a 3-man and they're all killing scavs, as long as the coast is clear, touch all of these bodies. This can add up to a ton of extra XP. Another thing that you can do as potentially more of like a mid or long-term goal for the wipe is once you get the library installed in the hideout, which requires a bunch of the modules to be upgraded, you get a permanent XP boost for every single raid that you do for the rest of the wipe. Now, this is something that you're going to be able to do super quickly. You're probably going to be in the late 20s, early 30s before you get the opportunity to do this. But if you want to play out the wipe and want to play, for the next 6 months, I would say this is definitely something that you should work towards because it's just a permanent flat increase in XP, which is always good. So hopefully this helped. Like I said, not all of these are super sexy answers. Just learning how to play the game in a different way in the early wipe to prioritize XP, to prioritize survival is going to kind of cascade into all these other things. You're probably going to have more money. You're going to have it more XP. You're going to be a higher level. That's going to be really good. And there are some other things to focus on as well to get your XP up. If you're newer to the game and you're just kind of having a hard time grasping this game, I just did a video on my top 5 tips for new players. If you want to check that out, that should be linked right here. If you enjoyed this video, think about dropping a like, commenting down below, or subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I'd love to hear from you if there's anything I missed. If you have any other tips for new players on how to maximize their XP. If you're new and you're trying to find people to play with, our Discord server is an awesome place to be. That link is down below. I also stream Escape from Tarkov 6 days a week. My links will be down below as well. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.